recording later. All right, so we are recording. I'm going to give you guys an overview of what I think's been working really well in the last year, what I'm hearing from different owners. Keep in mind, I work with about 50 business owners around North America, so I'm hearing what's working, I'm hearing what's not working. That's working good again. I'm sitting in my office in my old Miracles Fitness, so I know what's working here. But keep in mind, some of these ideas you might go, wow, that won't work well for me because I'm doing virtual training. That's fine. There might be an idea you go, oh, if I change that, that would be absolute gold, right? So the other day, someone was like, but I do one-on-one training. How am I supposed to do a group challenge with 40 people? I'm like, well, you're not. But how could you do some sort of a challenge with 5 one-on-one clients, right? And all of a sudden we designed a $1,200 challenge, right? He's like, I don't want to do a low-cost challenge. I'm like, don't do a low-cost challenge. Do a $1,200 challenge. And we devised that. So this is one of my quotes from a long time ago. Your business runs smoothly when you're not there if you have really strong cultures and systems in place, right? If you don't, your business doesn't run well at all when you're not there. And I think this is a critical thing for all of us to think about, even if you're a one-person show, right? If you're like, but I am my business. Well, what happens when you turn the lights off at night, right? Does your business just shut down? Are there things in place? Are there emails that are going out? Are clients being taken care of? Or it's literally Mandy decided to go home for the day, and so, business is over until, right? So we always need to be thinking about what is our business doing when no one's even watching, right? And I think COVID really taught me there are a lot of things you can be doing to take care of clients, even when your doors are shut, right? I mean, there's just so many things that we can be doing. So I do want you guys to be challenged to think about, and I know most of you probably have already found your passion. I think the question is, are you really dominating your path? Have you taken that passion and said, man, I am really dominating in the segment in the market I'm in, right? And I think most of you are probably in markets where there's more opportunity than you could even dominate. And I think sometimes we think way too small. We think, oh, well, I only have 7 clients, so therefore I'm not. It's like, but there's probably the potential for you to have more clients than you could even serve, right? Therese, I know where you're at in Florida. There are way more people than you could ever possibly handle, right? So the question is, how do you take the passion you have, the skills you have? I mean, 27 years of experience is like unbelievable, right? I mean, like that's a wealth of knowledge that's so valuable. How do you take that passion and dominate that in a way that you're going to help change lives to the absolute max, right? Whatever that is for you, Therese, whether that's all virtual, hybrid, whatever, right? So I want all of you to be thinking about that. So the first thing is find your passion. And I think for a lot of us, that was a challenge for me through COVID, right? It was like, oh my gosh, I think the world wants the fitness industry to go out of business, right? It was sort of how it felt. So I think for a lot of us, it's been an opportunity for us to kind of refine our passion. What do we really want to do to help people? And I've even changed this. I think less about fitness and more about helping people live their best life. I think less about fitness and more about caring for people. I realize, the 87-year-old widow, I don't know if she needs the absolute best workout from me, but she sure needs me to care about her, right? So define your purpose, and that's different. All of you, I always want people to realize every one of you in this room here is very unique, and you guys all have unique skill sets and unique gifts, and the way you take care of people is uniquely different. You come from it with different life perspective, and all of that's great. Nobody has to be the same trainer given the same workout or any of that stuff, right? But at some point, you have to define your purpose, right? What are you really about? Right. I see Karen Bloom's in the room. Just saw you, Karen, in Phoenix, and Karen has a unique skill set, for a woman her age and the women she wants to help. So always be thinking about your passion and your purpose, and then how can you be more productive? And I think the biggest thing for this, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this as we move on, but I think the biggest thing for this is we get distracted. And all of a sudden we're doing stuff that's not really in alignment with our passion and purpose, right? And all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, this is why you're not as productive, because you don't have to learn how to do Facebook ads, right? Like that's probably going to kill your productivity. And if all of a sudden you're like, I'm spending all my time doing these other things. So to 10x your productivity, right? I mean, that's gigantic. If you're going to get 10 times more productive, you have to spend more time focused on your passion and purpose. And then you have to get really serious about your time. And I'm going to challenge you to be more ruthless with your time, doing the specific things that lead to you getting more clients, helping more clients, serving more people. That's how we get 10x really more productive. I mean, can you get 10 times more out of your business right now? Maybe not, but you probably can get 10 times more productive with your time if you stop doing things. A lot of this is stop doing things that are a waste of your time. Stop doing things that are a distraction. Stop attending meetings or doing things that just simply don't serve your passion and your purpose. Right? I know sometimes people are like, well, should I still be going to the Rotary? If it doesn't meet your passion and your purpose and it's not getting you clients and it's not impacting your business, then probably not, right? You have to start saying no to things. That's one of the biggest ways to increase your productivity. People ask me over the years, how did you get so much done? How did you build FAI part-time, a few hours a week? Well, I had to say no to a lot of stuff, a lot of distractions, and stay laser focused on my passion and purpose. So I kind of already said all this. We all have a gift. You guys all have different gifts and different skills. Stay in your zone of genius, right? Like this is why I tell people in most cases, if you really want to grow a big business, 100 clients or more, and you know you need to do Facebook ads, that's probably not your zone of genius. Hire someone to do that, right? Like I've never really run my Facebook ads for Miracles Fitness. I hired someone to do that was good at it, that could get us leads. Okay. Email marketing, I'm going to talk a little bit about. Probably not the zone of genius for any of you, but you do have to send emails to your clients, your customers. So there's some level of it you have to get good at, but there are ways that you can be even better at it, right? You can use a company like Prime Fit Marketing, Fit Pro Newsletter, ConvertKit to give you tons of great resources. Coach Catalyst, who I'm having a meeting with for you guys on Wednesday. Who's your avatar? We'll talk quite a bit about that today. Do one thing and do it better than anyone else. And really believe in that, right? Like there probably is something that you do better than anyone else. You're like, you know what? If you give me a 70-year-old woman with a hip replacement, I can help her. And I know I can do that. If not better than anyone, I can do it as well as anyone. Okay. Well, then you probably should be focused on that, right? I mean, make sure you know what it is you do really well. Don't be the person that's like, well, I can train anyone. I'm like, honestly, I have no interest in training high school athletes anymore. I just don't. I would not be good at it. They would drive me nuts. I would be like, are you kidding me? This is such a gigantic waste of my time. Could I do it and do it well? Probably. I mean, I have the science for it. I did it 20 years ago. But that's not something I would be better than anyone else for sure. So don't get distracted doing things that you shouldn't be doing. And this I know is going to be a temptation or a challenge for many of you. Mandy, I know you started your business. You're off and rolling. That's awesome. We're going to hear from you here in a little bit. Distractions are going to come your way a lot. Be really, really wary of that, right? People are going to hear about Mandy's new business, and all of a sudden, the local high school is going to be like, well, would you train our volleyball team? And you go, well, that sounds fun. And pretty soon you're doing stuff you should not be doing, right? It's like, so you got to stay laser focused. What's your purpose? What's your why? What's your big, hairy, scary, audacious goal? Right? Like if I said to you, Therese, you should be training 100 clients virtually and doing $20,000 a month, would that sort of goal scare you or sound like absolutely not like Dan's crazy, you know? So like you have to have a goal that almost feels unreachable, right? Karen, I know, Karen, I want to push you to do $10,000 a month in training. And sometimes people hear that and they're like, oh, well, that's a lot of that. Some people would think that's not a lot of money. Other people think that's a ridiculous amount of money. Karen probably thinks that's way more than I could ever do. So then it's a really big, hairy goal for Karen, right? Now, why I say 10,000 a month is because I want Karen to help that many people. Because I know the places Karen lives and the communities she's touching, I know there are at least 100 women that are suffering that she's not helping. At least, probably way more than that. Karen, would you agree there's probably 100 women that you touch base with between Wisconsin and Phoenix that absolutely, I mean, you're nodding your head, right? There's 100 women that are suffering for whatever right? They have joint pain, they're not moving as well, they can't lose weight, they're in their 60s and 70s, they're obese, they can't play with their grandkids the way they would like to. I mean, you can go on and on of the things that Karen could probably solve. So when I say $10,000 a month, what I really am saying is I want Karen to help more people, right? And I want her to have a big enough goal that she's a little bit intimidated and scared by it. But then she does have to be willing to go after it, right? To go achieve it, right? I can't do that for her. I can tell her what the goal is. I can say, hey, I know there are 100 women. I'm guessing they would be willing to pay you $88 to $99 a month. Guess what? You're already doing over 100,000 a year, right? You can get to the 10,000 a month. Okay. I gotta watch my time here because I really want to spend time hearing from you guys and letting you guys bounce ideas off each other. I still believe the most dominant consumer and the dominant market for most of us is the boomer female. Now, there may be some spillover there. Women a little bit older than boomer women, still a great target, right? Women 70, I guess boomers are 76, 77 this year. So women in their late 70s, early 80s, still a great opportunity. Probably even more so for people in Florida and Phoenix, right? If someone has retired from the north to Florida or Phoenix, that already tells me they probably have a little bit more money. They want to spend their last years enjoying the weather. So where Therese, you happen to live, there's probably a lot of women in there that aren't even boomer women, right? Upper 70s, early 80s. And now we're starting to see Gen X women. What's happening to them? They're turning 55, right? And they're starting to experience some of these same things that people do with age, and they're realizing, I don't really want the old traditional health club fitness model. So there is some spillover, but I think boomer females, there's enough market opportunity there that's untapped. Vibrantnation.com is no longer a website that exists, but I still come back to this because I think I fully believe this is the dominant consumer and will be for fitness for probably the next 10 to 15 years until honestly they age out to the point where they're dying off, right? I mean, boomer women 57 to 58 to 77. I mean, at some point, right, 20 years from now, there won't be the dominant consumer because half of them will have passed on. But right now, I think there's still the dominant consumer and absolutely growing online. When people say, oh, can I do this online? Absolutely. The fastest growing population still on Facebook is women over 55. So if people think, oh, I don't know if I want to get on Facebook. Well, if you want to find older women, Facebook is definitely the place to be. I don't know if you guys are all aware of this, but Facebook is for old people. It's official. People under 25 absolutely will tell you that and confirm it. My children make this very clear. In fact, I don't think any of them are active on Facebook. They're all 25 and under. So the interesting thing here, I think, for you to take away is the top external influencer here is women like me. So if you happen to be a woman on here and you happen to be over 50, you already have an advantage because they feel like they can relate and connect to you and trust you a little bit more. Okay. But they're still going to be somewhat hesitant because, well, yeah, but you're the fitness professional. You don't really get it. You've always been fit and healthy your whole life, right? So they really want to see women like them, right? Women that have struggled with their whatever it happens to be, weight loss, hip replacement, knee pain, joint pain, can't do what I want to do. They want to see women that they identify with. That's really, really important. So you need to be using, images, testimonials, videos, any sort of sample that you can that reminds them of themselves. You want to think about women over 50 that are the self-interested spender, simplicity seeker, or value endorser. You already have some of these clients probably. If you have a value endorser, turn them loose. These are the people who are like, oh my goodness, Pete, why does not everybody train with you? This is the best thing ever, right? They're like, they so believe in you, they believe in you more than you do, right? They're like, everybody should be coming to you. When you hear people say things like that, you go, oh, how can you introduce me to all your friends? Or do you have any charity groups you'd like me to speak to? Are you on any civic boards, right? Because they are so fully believing in what you're doing They're so passionate about it, they think everybody should do it, right? Simplicity seekers, they're not telling anybody about you. You're their secret weapon, right? You're their best caterer for their best party. They're not telling anybody about their caterer, right? They throw the best parties because they have the best caterer that they're not telling anybody about. You make my life easier, simpler. These are great clients because they will stay with you a long time. They don't necessarily refer because they're coming to you to make their life simpler. They're not coming to you to tell their friends, right? And then the self-interested spender, this is the norm actually of women over 50. Women over 50 get to this age range and they're like, yeah, I'm spending the money on my own self-interest. I'm not spending it because my husband said to. I'm not spending it because my mom said to. I'm not doing it. I'm doing it for my own self-interest, right? So when you graduate to someone who's a value endorser, that one should alarm bells should go off when you hear people say, why is everybody not trained with you? How do I get my friends to you? Those are people you want to get into their networks, right? Because they'll introduce you at the Rotary Club and tell everybody, well, you should absolutely be training with my trainer, right? So if you hear people, notice it's only 2% the other pleasers. That's basically somebody who hasn't matured in life and they're still doing stuff for everybody else, right? They're still, they might still be raising kids for crying out loud in their 50s. They haven't got the kids to move out of the basement yet, right? I mean, there are women in their 50s that still have grown children in their home, but they're hopefully not other pleasers, right? At that point, they might be self-interested spenders, simplicity seekers. Other pleasers are not going to be great clients, and they're only about 2% of women over 50. Messages to avoid. You don't need to use this 8 out of 10 experts recommend it anymore, right? I mean, we've all seen that stuff. 50 is the new 30. That's garbage, right? 50 is the new 50, right? 60 is the new 60. I think if you survey most people who are healthy and happy in their 60s, they will tell you they don't want to be 30 again. They'll say, I want to be the best version of who I am. That notion in and of itself, I think most healthy people in their 60s know is nonsense anyway, right? Like you're not going back to 60 anyway. So don't talk about like being 50 as a negative thing, right? Like 50 is the new 30. There is this real concept that people are aging differently, though, isn't there? Right? I mean, people that are turning 50 are like, turning 50 today is not like it was 50 years ago. I mean, in 1980, when you turned 50, you were old. In 2020, that sounds ridiculous, right? I mean, it's not the same. So that's part of what that concept is getting at. We are aging differently, right? I don't know if you've all seen the image. It's worth Googling the image of J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez doing the halftime show at 50 versus I think it's Blanche in the Golden Girls was in her 50s, right? And this side-by-side image, you're like, it is different the way we're aging. There's no doubt. It is different. Messages that do work. You know what you want. And I'm guessing most of the women here will relate to this. Most of the men, they probably relate to it as well, right? You deserve to have your needs and interests taken seriously. You don't care about what others think of your decisions. You've earned the right to your opinion. It's this empowerment language, right? And you're doing this because you want to do it, right? People are not signing up for your fitness program because their doctor talked them into it. They're not signing up to it because their spouse told them they should, right? The spouse objection starts to get silly for women in their 60s, right? I mean, they're like, I'm here because I want to take care of my health and fitness, and I'm here for myself. So the grandparent connection is huge, but don't make the mistake of thinking they're doing this for their grandkids. They're not. They might be doing this to be a great grandmother or great grandfather because they want to have more energy and more connection and more ability to do stuff with them. But that's still about me, right? I want to be a great grandfather. I'm not just doing this for little Johnny, right? Because that's not going to maintain my ability to do this long term. And that's, in most cases, not going to get people in front of you. Couples want to do this because so many reasons, right? Travel, adventures, so many different things. This image, I think, is very age appropriate. You're not going to do well in most cases if the ages are mismatched, right? So don't show older men with younger women in most cases. The fit butt category, I like this term. All right, we're almost done. Good. So we'll get to all of your challenges and questions. This is really that concept of people do want to be fit and healthy, but they're not willing to do crazy stuff, right? Like I don't need to be doing cartwheels and walking handstands and pull-ups and stuff that might hurt me. Um, and we have this debate all the time. How heavy is too heavy to lift? Well, it depends on what your goals are, right? I mean, do you have to be deadlifting 200 pounds when you're 80? Depends. I mean, if you want to compete for that, maybe. But these are clients who are saying, hey, I want to get a great workout. I want to be in great shape, but I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt me. So again, I think this is where caring for people is such a critical piece. So the unfit and the unhealthy, Joanne, I just included in my PFP magazine article. It's kind of crazy. These start to, you guys see this. This is my last one. Joanne's going to be in the next one. And I lost touch with Joanne several years ago. She trained with us when she was started training with us when she was 80 till she was 87 years old. She was a client for 7 years. I honestly don't know if she's still alive. She had to move into assisted living because her husband died due to a fall. And this is an interesting conversation, right? She was the unfit, unhealthy one, and she trained with us for 7 years. He was the fit and healthy one and didn't need us. And he's the one that died due to a fall. And it drove me nuts. And I was like, but I mean, I did try, and I don't have regrets in this. I feel bad that we lost her as a client because he refused to allow us to help him. But I did try persistently. And I always tell people, really, you have to try to get the spouse. Because unfortunately, you would think the person with Parkinson's and multiple joint replacements and triple bypass surgery and not healthy, you would think that she would have been the one that would have died due to a fall. But she was training with us because she wanted to go to the Galapagos Islands, which you can see she got to. Don never would train with us, and he died due to a fall in their home, and it broke my heart. I was like, and I knew immediately, I was like, we're going to lose Joanna as a client, because at that point she was no longer driving at age 87. He was bringing her to the facility and then going and running errands or sitting in the lobby, which drove me nuts. That was what I'd be like, Don, come on, come do something. That's like crazy. But there's so many of these people, right? And I love sharing this story because Joanne got to go to the Galapagos Islands because she believed that she could because of what I told her, right? And I wrote this in the article, right? Sometimes we think too much about fitness, and I'm like, we have to remember, like, you're changing people's lives. Like, Joanne wanted to go to the Galapagos Islands and she didn't believe she could anymore. And I was like, Joanne, what do you have to be able to do? Let's break it down. I got to be able to walk a mile. I got to be able to get in and out one of those Zodiac boats like the Navy SEALs do. That sounds terrifying. I got to navigate the beach. It might be wet, rocky, sandy. I'm like, those things actually don't sound that terribly difficult, right? I'm breaking it down functionally. I'm like, okay, the sandy beach is probably the hardest thing, right? Um, how far can you walk now? She's like, oh, I can't walk a mile. She's like, I could maybe walk a quarter mile, and I really would need my cane. I'm like, okay, are you willing to train hard? Are you willing to give it everything you got for 3 to 4 times a week for 6 months? And she looks at me, she's like, you think this old lady can do it? Right? I'm like, I actually think you can. I said, but I'm also thinking in the back of my mind, even if she can't, I know we're going to change her life in the next 6 months if she gives it a shot, right? She's going to be able to take walks in the neighborhood and do things with. And after 6 months, she was so confident she booked the trip for like 6, 7 months later, kept training with us, and of course comes back and wouldn't quit, right? We couldn't get her to quit because she's like, I can't stop. She trained with us for 7 years. So really cool stuff. Okay, so here's your homework. If you haven't done this, if you've never done this, or maybe you have done it, you need to do it again. We always need to kind of revisit this, right? I'll show you. Oh, I'm looking for your book too. Oh, where did I put my book? The cover of my book has my avatar, Terry Smith. Now I'm not finding it. So you have an avatar, and you actually should have the person in mind. Like, you can visualize the person, right? Is that the woman who's your avatar? Or maybe it's this group of 5 women, right? I like using book covers. Where do they live? Where do they eat, sleep, play, worship, volunteer, work, go out for coffee? What do they do with their pets? Who's their vet? Who's their groomer? Where's their dog park? I mean, all of it. You should know all of it. You should know the in and outs of them, so detailed it's almost scary, right? So detailed that when you send an email out, I think it was Kara Michelle. You send an email out, Kara Michelle, people are like, feels like you're talking like to my directly to me, like you like to my soul, right? Because you know everything, like you know what's keeping them up at night, right? And they're like, man, you just I read your email and it's just really connected to me, right? That we can get super deep on this stuff. If you haven't done this, I really encourage you to do this. It doesn't matter whether you're training online, in person, in people's homes, in a studio, it's the same task, right? Why are people going to gravitate to you? Why is someone going to say, boy, this Therese sounds like she gets me, has a solution for me, understands me, right? Why are they going to gravitate to you? Because you're putting out messages that connect with who they are, right? That match who they are. If your avatar was an NFL prospect, right? An NFL prospect is what, like a 22-year-old male, you know, super fit, obviously probably been a college football player, maybe not super fit, maybe they're 350 pounds, they're overweight linemen, I don't know, right? Completely different avatar than a 67-year-old female, right? The messages you would send out to an NFL prospect should look so different that a 67-year-old female would go, well, this is definitely not for me, right? I'm not training for an NFL combine. I'm not looking to improve my 40-yard dash time, right? So this is why this avatar task is so important, because you want to match the ability for you to connect faster, market more effectively, sell better programs, is that you've understood who it is you're trying to reach and you're reaching them better. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you haven't done this, I strongly encourage you to do this, because it doesn't do you any good to do some of the things I'm going to tell you to do, right? When I say go speak at events, well, I don't want you to go speak to third graders, because they're probably, I'm guessing they're not your avatar. But I do want you to go speak to retired communities. I do want you to go speak to, you know, women's clubs, philanthropy groups, affluent retirees, right? If you can find a retirees association, Purdue Retirees Association, one of the best events. Every year we had a booth, and every year they would let me speak. I was always available, right? And I think I spoke at it twice in about 10 years, and we had a booth every other year. Purdue Retirees Association. That's my avatar for sure, right? No brainer there. So don't get overwhelmed. Keep it simple, one step at a time, one contact at a time. The main three things that I am seeing work really in the last year are email, building your email contacts so you have a bigger email list, bigger email reach, live speaking, if you can get out and speak places. And then the other third one is open house events. So an open house event for a virtual club is a little bit more challenging, but there are people doing them. And the way they do these open house events is they tend to have 1 or 2 times a month where they have just a themed open party where somebody can come and share their latest trip. You might have a movie night discussion where or I've actually seen some people even do a book club. So they might say, here's an example, the movie 80 for Brady. It's kind of an interesting movie for, you know, I actually really enjoyed it. My son works in an assisted living place. He really wanted to go see it. People there were talking about it. That could be a movie that you could say, hey, everybody's going to watch this movie, and then we're going to have an open house virtually and just talk about what we enjoyed about it, right? So there are creative ways you can have open house parties even virtually. So the three things: email, speaking at events, and I'll show some of those, and then hosting parties, open houses, welcome events, those sorts of things. So you all know about 150 people. So when people say, oh, I don't have an email list, I always say nonsense. You absolutely have an email list. You just haven't done the work to organize it, format it, put it into a platform, and then you're not adding contacts like you should. Build your list online, build your list offline. You don't have to run ads. I always say there are ad options, but you know, YouTube videos, Facebook videos, lots of different ways you can build your list online. Make that simple. Don't get burnt out like Marion did. I don't really want you going 12 different places. which is why I started by saying, get laser focused on what your passion and purpose is. Don't be going, Marion was going 12 different places. She's like, well, if I could just get more clients. I'm like, if you just get more clients, you're going to be completely burnt out. I think you're already burnt out now. She's like, oh yeah, I'm totally burnt out. That's why I just need a few more clients. I'm like, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense. Like, no. You don't need, you're already in trouble. We don't need to throw more gasoline on this fire. We need to change what you're doing. Um, and she did. And the thing that really saved her was she had built a list over several years. And then she built more through Facebook and it allowed her to open a studio. So instead of going 12 different places, she was going to clients' homes. She was going teaching somewhere else. Oh, I go over there. We started to map out her day. And I was like, it's like a 12-hour day every day, not 10x productive because she was only training about 8 to 9 hours of that. She was traveling so much, right? And she was doing that like 5-6 days a week. I was like, you don't want more of that. You want less of that, more efficiency. She opened her own studio, got way more efficient, and now I think she's gone completely. Virtual since she's in Canada since COVID, but still doing well. There's so many different ways. If you're like, I'm not an online person, great. I mean, people I think are more hungry for human connection now than ever before, right? Like go out to coffee with people, go out to lunch, go network, go to a BNI meeting, Business Network International meetings, find networking meetings, clubs, organizations, Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, Breakfast Optimist clubs. There's so many different clubs and organizations. Go have breakfast with people, lunch with people. Your Chamber of Commerce, maybe. Sometimes they have events that are useful for networking. Build more social capital. We built the Functional Agent Institute purely on social capital, and I heard it today. Unbelievable. Like people were like, I've heard about you from Emily Splickle. I heard about you from Evan Osar. I mean, you guys like couldn't have set this up even more, right? I've built relationships with Evan and Emily over the years. We give them opportunities to speak. They give us opportunities to speak. We introduce each other to each other's audience. Everyone that Emily Splickle is teaching also could learn from FAI. Everyone that Evan Osar is teaching, right? There's lots of business owners in your community that should be referral partners with you. The obvious ones are physical therapists, chiropractors, massage therapists, but there are others, right? Nail salon owners, plumbers, HVAC guys, electricians. You're like, what? Electricians? Electricians go into affluent people's homes and rewire things, right? There are other types of businesses you could be connected to. A high-end car detailer, for example. I mean, that might be a nice referral for you, right? Your clients might be like, I need somebody to detail my car. If you had someone, cool. They would be like, wow, that is super cool, Pete. I had no idea you knew. Dante, I happen to know, owns Premier Auto Detailing here in Lafayette, West Lafayette. He's, to my knowledge, the only high-end car detailer. He will come to your home, pick up your car, take it to the shop. I mean, he'll do the whole thing, right? Whatever you need, right? High-end. Attorneys, estate attorneys. How many business owners do you know? Now, this is a challenge, but my challenge to you would be if you're like, and I don't want you to get super distracted with it, just meet with one business owner every week for the next 20 weeks. Just meet with one. Like, I mean, look, you got to have coffee, right? You got to have lunch, you got to have breakfast. You can overlap these things. Go meet with one physical therapist, chiropractor, massage therapist, hairstylist, hair salon owner, pet grooming owner. I mean, that might be a business you want to learn more about. I don't know, is there a dentist that does plastic, not plastic surgery, but like dentists now are doing Botox, right? Dentists that are doing Botox. My guess is a lot of their female clients are probably over 50 for that service, right? You know, figure out how you can take them out to lunch or have coffee with them. My challenge would be for you to do that once a week for the next 20 weeks. That's 20 potential connections to business owners. Now, are they all going to grow your business? Absolutely not. I'm going to guess 16 of them are going to be probably a waste of time in terms of business growth. But if 2 of them are a home run, could dramatically change your business, right? So, but along the way, you're going to learn more about other businesses in your community. You might find a really valuable resource for your clients that you didn't know about. they might not be able to come back to you, but I always like to be a great solution for my clients, right? If I know other places to send people. Publish a book if you haven't. Some of you, I think, on here have. I showed you some samples. You can book publish with us if that's something you want to do. Coffee and conversation. So I talked about live events. Have some sort of event at your place more often. I don't know if Jackie's on here. I didn't see her. Jackie says to me, I was in Houston a few weeks ago. I said, "Hey, Jackie, what's been the best thing working for you in the past few months?" She's like, "Well, we had an open house and we got like 5 new clients." I'm like, "When was that?" I think she said it was January or February. This was April. I'm like, "Well, do you have one planned for May?" She's like, "We probably should do that." I'm like, "Probably." Like, if you got 20 people there because your clients invited everybody to your party and then they brought their friends and you got 5 new clients, like, let's figure out how to do that 4 or 5 times a year, right? And there's lots of different ways you can do them. You can do luncheons, you can do lunch and learn seminars, you can do coffee and conversation events. I always give Beth Pelton credit for this. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I didn't even know this was a thing. Um, but she just has coffee house conversations at her studio and she invites people in. She'll have someone come in and talk about essential oils. She'll have a massage therapist come in, a physical therapist come in. She'll have a quilter come in and talk about how she makes quilts. It doesn't really matter what the topic is, right? It's just a coffee hangout club, and has grown her list and also grown her clientele, right? So lots of different ways. You could probably have a different open house event every month. Obviously, if you surround it around coffee or something like that, that super helps. They don't have to always be at your place. You could have someone host you as well. Parties, events, charity parties, charity fundraisers, all of these things are great live events for you to show up to. In some cases, have a booth. The caregivers event was our most successful live event. Purdue University ran this every year for maybe 5 or 6 years, and I almost overlooked it. But the person actually happened to know me, and she's like, "I really think this would benefit you more than you think." And I'm like, "But we don't offer caregiving." She's like, "I know." She said, "But we're trying to get some fitness places there and some physical therapists there." And actually, what you do is you show up and you're a pattern interrupt, right? You're a disconnect because I just happen to see Mandy and Pete on screen. You guys are looking for caregivers for your parents, right? And you're walking through this huge, and after about 4 or 5 of them, it's like, oh, gee, this is kind of depressing. Like, I'm trying to get caregivers for my parents. And then you get to a fitness place and it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't think my parents can work out. And I'm not talking to you about your parents working out. I'm talking about, what are you doing for working out, right? Hey, would you like to try a 21-day fitness transformation for free? So that you can, because I'm hoping you're thinking, man, I sure don't want to have my kids wind up at a caregivers event 20 years from now and be looking for caregivers for me, right? In fact, that was almost what people said. They're like, oh, I need to do this because I don't want to get old the way my mom or dad has gotten old. People just gave us their contact info. The beauty of that caregivers event was it was only $25 to have a booth at this event. So go looking for these kind of events where you can get names, emails, those sorts of things for relatively no cost. All right. Two last things, and then we're going to open it up to your guys' questions, concerns, challenges, how I can help you. So the quick reminder here, have your ideal client clearly identified. That's your avatar is another word for ideal client, right? Really define them. If you haven't done that, the easiest way to do that is probably start with 2 of your absolute best clients, merge them together and say, hey, Susan, she's 68. This is where she lives. This is her favorite restaurant, right? She came to me because she had a knee replacement. You probably can define the person really, really well. And I usually say it shouldn't be someone who's miserable to work with, doesn't want to pay, all those sorts of things, right? Ideally, it's a customer that loves you. Your email system you need to have. So FitPro newsletter is the one I used for 12 years at Miracles Fitness. They continue to use it. I know lots of club owners that use it. ConvertKit is another one. Aweber is a general one. Constant Contact's a general one. But if you're going to grow an email list of 200, 300, 400 people, and you should be doing that because you want to help more people, You have to have some sort of email platform, and you have to be cleaning up your email list, categorizing them: suspects, prospects, clients, past clients. Suspects is my word for prospects we don't know anything about. Like, I really don't even know if they're a good prospect for my service, right? Maybe they don't live in my service area, or maybe they're not the right age range. So you need to know, you know, you need to even categorize your prospects, right? Hot prospect, really interested, emailed me 3 times. A suspect could be somebody you really don't know who it is. So keep those email lists organized. Email lists are pretty simple. You send out an email, say, hey, I've got 2 openings next week. I'd love for 2 people that want to just give me a try. Sometimes we overthink it. I mean, let's be honest. How did you all get here today? Right? Sometimes people are like, oh, well, email marketing. So how did you get here today? The only way you got here is because I sent you an email and you guys all registered for this free mastermind. So it absolutely does work. Some of you might even be like, I have no idea how I got on that email list that Dan sent me the email, right? So it does work. It absolutely works. The Facebook group, if you're not in the Facebook group, please email me, because I want you to use it more to generate ideas as a sounding board, accountability. I'd love to see you guys post your takeaways from today. Like, how was this useful? I will post this recording in the Facebook group. So if you're like, I don't even know what the Facebook group is, email me. I'll send you the link. I'm not going to do that right now, but we have a Facebook group. We have a free one. I think it's called the Ageless Fitness Coaching Group. And then we have our mastermind, which is the paid one for people who are paying for coaching regularly. If you're in the paid group, use it more. If you're in the free group, use it more. It's a resource to you. The free group, I think, has 200 business owners in there. Post in there what you're doing, what you're struggling with. The group is more valuable the more you guys use it. So, okay, let's open it up to you guys. So I think that was my last slide. It was. I'm going to stop sharing. Is anybody dying to go first because they have to leave in 10 minutes? Hey, Rosalie. And if you guys want to, for those of you that aren't on camera, if you want to come on camera now, that'd be great. But if you can't, don't. That's totally fine too. So I'm going to set it here so I can see everybody that's in the room here. All right. Anybody dying to share something first, or have a challenge they want me to try to address? And you got to turn your microphone on.
I'd have a question for you. That's okay.
Yeah, go for it, Pete.
So I had a call yesterday with Tom West from SmartFit.
Yeah.
And wow, I mean, come on. That product it's something.
It's awesome. Yep. It's great stuff.
Yeah. So my issue is, I mean, I know it's something that I want. I mean, I could probably stretch it to the word need. It looks so valuable.
Yeah.
I'm exclusively 65 plus.
Okay.
And I'm also looking at a 10 grand price tag for the first 2 years. And then, you know, the ongoing cost I'm not worried about. It's the buy-in. I'm just getting ready to open. I'm self-funded. So I guess my question to you, you know, if you were in that situation, how valuable do you see that? I have the cash. It's not that I can't do it. It's that I would, first I'd have to sell it to my wife. Right. And then I got to make that decision. Is it worth putting up another 10 grand after I'm already about 65 in to have that on day one for testing purposes? Right.
Yeah. I love the equipment. They actually just sponsored our summit, so they're going to be at that in Salt Lake City. I guess my first question for you, Pete, is have you used the equipment live in someone's studio?
I have not.
Okay. So I would really encourage you to do that first. There are different options and wide price points, right? So you can get the simple towers that are much less expensive than the giant wall board. So I'd probably want you to actually experience both before you decide which to purchase. The other thing I would really recommend you do is get open, get up and running, get some revenues going before you buy any more equipment. I see too many people getting too deep a hole. This is what we did at Miracles Fitness. We got in too deep a hole trying to have all the perfect equipment in place, right? Well, we want to have every piece of Kaiser and we want to have all the Precor and all the, and if we had done it over again, we would have been like, well, we didn't really need 3 new steps. We only needed 2.
Right.
What do you do when you have 3 of them and you only need 2? You're like, oh,
Yep. Yep.
not like they're taking it back. So I tend to say, get started, get your revenues cranking.
Yep.
Then you can always add stuff, right? You can always add stuff
Yep.
later. And it's a lot easier to have that conversation with your wife when you're cash flow positive and
Yep.
you're like, you get to the end of the year and you're like, well, if we don't spend this 20 grand, the government's going to take it from us. So let's go buy this $4,000 toy that we know is going to even take us to the
Right.
next level. So
Right.
that would be my advice to you. But for sure, I would experience it and try it out somewhere.
Okay.
And so I would reach back out to SmartFit and be like, hey, where are the closest facilities that have it? I'd like to go try it, experience it. It is a phenomenal piece of equipment. I think we're going to see it popping up in more and more studios. That, guess what? The studio is brain health focused first, fitness focused second, which is critical. My other question to you, Pete, is why are you exclusively 65 plus, and why are you not willing to help people 55 to 64?
Good question. So we're here in Lancaster County, #1 retirement community in the country, last 7 years, 8 years now running. There is no one else in the county that's exclusively 65 plus.
Okay.
There's 50 plus, and I see a massive, my clients back on the Cape. If I were to try to chunk out a demographic, the difference between, if I say 50 to 85, like that's
Right.
a really, I mean, it's 2 different skill sets.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So we are going to, we're obviously the 65 plus community wants to train between 8:30 in the morning and noon.
Yep.
So we're going to rent to subcontractors at the other hours so that
Okay.
we can service anybody else.
Okay. Hey, that's great. I mean, if you know your passion and your purpose and who you want to serve, that's great. I would just say, keep in mind down the road, and this is a potential good problem to have, right? I mean, if you have 62-year-olds knocking on your door going,
Yes,
please, could you take me? Then you might have to change that to 60 plus, right? And I
Yep.
don't
Yep.
think you're going to have too many 68-year-olds go, wait a minute, you said it was going to be 6, but
Right.
something to keep in mind. When we opened Miracles Fitness, we marketed so well for the over 50-year-old. We actually had people 48 and 49 call and be like, am I allowed to join? I was like,
Nice.
and we didn't have any rule. We just
Yep.
marketed to 50 plus. I was like, yeah, you're allowed to join. You only have, legally, you only have to be 18 to join our facility. It was pretty funny. I was like, okay, we need to tone down the marketing just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So just be aware of that. So,
Great.
all right, who's next?
I have a question.
Okay, Rosalie.
Yeah, I feel like it's partly a business model question and partly a programming question.
Okay.
I'm doing small group personal training or semi-private personal training, and starting my 3rd round of a 6-week series, and noticing the problem of trying to get the group full but not over full. I've got a maximum of 5 people for the space I have.
Okay.
And I'd like to have a minimum of 4 people. So that's not a lot of leeway. And I'm trying to figure out, how can I have less stress about filling the group, whether I should have these groups all start at the same time or whether people could whether it's better to do a month by month thing. And then also, when they all started together, it was great because I could build foundational skills and then increase the difficulty and stuff. But now that some people have done the group a couple times and then there's new people coming in, they're getting more heterogeneous in their abilities.
Yeah.
And not just in their
person,
strength.
in person or virtual?
It's all in person. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So questions there about how do I how individualized should this programming be for the people in the group, and then what kind of model to use in terms of not having to sweat filling the group up each time I relaunch it, if that's all making sense. Happy to hear other people.
Yeah, the relaunch, Rosalie, is it, if I sign up to train in your group, am I not signing up long term? Like, I might pay every month, but am I not signing up for a 7 or 8 month commitment?
When you sign up, you're paying for a 6-week commitment.
Okay, so that would be probably the biggest change to make, is switch to a 30-week commitment. So the 6-week might be my trial, right? You can try it for 6 weeks, and that's how people enter in. But then after that, it's a 30 or a 48-week commitment. Because then you don't have to resell people. You don't have to, I have 4 people signed up for the 10 a.m. slot for the next 30 some weeks, and you're not always having to resell it. That's a pretty fundamental thing that I think applies to everybody in the room, not just you, Rosalie, that if we're not selling 30-week or longer programs, we're constantly having to have people recommit.
What about that being too big of a commitment or needing to have flexibility around people's vacations?
Yeah, that's not an objection. That's really it's not even a challenge to overcome, right? So, I mean, propose it to me, Rosalie. So, Rosalie, you want to start training with me. My shortest program is 30 weeks. And I mean, tell me the objection for your traveling. Go ahead and give it to me. So, you don't want to sign up for 30 weeks because you travel?
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got a couple.
no problem. Anytime you travel, Rosalie, just let me know and I'll add that week or 2. Or how long are your trips typically? Are you gone for 2 weeks, 4 weeks?
Usually a week.
A week? Okay, no problem. We just add that week to your program at the end. I'm not going to charge you for weeks you're gone. I mean,
Okay.
that's not a big challenge to overcome. Um, I mean, let's be honest, Netflix doesn't let you get the week back when you're on vacation, right? I mean, we sign up for lots of subscriptions as humans in lots of different ways, and we don't get any refund on vacation. In your case, you're going to actually say, sure. I know some fitness owners that don't. They're just like, especially if they're running a brick and mortar studio, they're like, well, we got to keep the lights on while you're on vacation and we got to pay the electric bill. But I always just told people, look, if you're gone for a week, no problem. So I
So
think
do they
that's
pay,
fundamental that you do that.
monthly?
Yeah, they can pay monthly. You can do that how you prefer, Rosalie. So they can pay monthly, they can pay quarterly, they can pay every 2 weeks. Some people even let people pay weekly. I'm not a huge fan of weekly because it's just a lot, but you can let them, I know clubs that do that, right? They literally auto charge people. And some people are comfortable with, hey, it's only $50 a week, right? It feels more comfortable to people that way. I I don't I'm pretty quick with math. So if somebody tells me it's $50 a week, I know it's more than 200 a month, but that's not how everybody thinks. I mean,
You would have it be automated because they already made the commitment?
yep. So they're going to sign up for 30 weeks. If they want to pay for all 30 weeks in full right now, that's fine. But otherwise, it's going to be 7 monthly payments of this, right? I happen to know 30 weeks is 7 months because we used to do 7-month programs. We did 30-week programs. You don't want to be a salesperson every 6 weeks. You want people to sign up long term. If people aren't willing to commit to you for 30 weeks, we probably have another conversation we need to have about your sales formula and convincing people. And if people are like, I don't know if I want to sign up for 30 weeks, well, then why don't you try our 6-week program? Our 6-week program is, $347. And at the end of that, if you're not fully convinced, then we'll part as friends, right? And if at the end of that you love it, then we'll sign you up for our 30-week program, right? Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't even believe, Rosalie, that you're going to really help someone unless they're training with you for 30 weeks or more, right? I mean, they need that long-term consistency. That also helps you then with that programming issue, right? I always tell people on the programming issue, there's ideal and there's real, right? Ideal is we've got 5 clients that all have the same physical challenges, limitations, whatever, and we're progressing them all equally and they all show up 3 times a week consistently. But real is I've got 5 clients and they all have different challenges and different issues, but they're friends and they want to train together. And well, I want to come with my sister. And it's like, but your sister's more fit than you. And so you have to try to specialize and individualize a program for those 5 people as best you can, realizing they are all unique. And so then, I mean, it's sort of like being a teacher, right? I mean, let's be honest. If you're a teacher, it's like, well, I can't teach to the smartest kid in the class and I can't teach to the weakest kid in the class. And you have to be able to give people 75 to 80% of what everybody needs, and then try to specialize it for the rest. Does that make sense? And then, the other problem is 6 months down the road, Susan is like, well, I really want to bring my husband, and he wants to train at the same time as me. And you're like, well, that's going to throw off the group dynamic, and he's going to be 2 years behind you, So, but what are you going to do? You're going to say, well, no, you can't bring your husband. You know what I mean? You're gonna do what you need to do to make that work. Some cases they might have to train at a different time, but I have found the human connection and the socialization and the bond that people have a lot of times is stronger than the fact that they're a fitness disconnect, right? Now, where that becomes most problematic, where I've seen it most problematic, is when couples want to train together but don't do it very well, because either they're too competitive. It's typically, in most cases, it's the guy has trouble with the fact that she's fitter, stronger, whatever, right? His ego has more trouble with that. Every once in a while, you see it the other way around. Every once in a while, women struggle with that he's fitter. And sometimes I've seen the problem with that is he's fitter and not kind to her, which is unfortunate, right? And you're like, I'm seeing a dynamic that probably happens in your marriage that I don't want to see in my gym, and then my other clients don't want to see it either. So that would be the one place where I would tell couples, hey, if you don't mesh well together, training together, then it's fine to train, at separate times. So does that help, Rosalie?
Yeah,
Okay.
but so if I have space for 5 people in my 9 a.m. group, do I sell 5 30-week things,
Yep.
knowing that like 2 people could be gone the same week,
Yep.
or even 2 weeks in a
Yep.
row?
Absolutely.
Okay, I wouldn't sell like 6 and hope for the best or make them compete for the spots.
No, you would sell 5 and it would be sold out at that point, right? And then if somebody didn't want to renew, you would just be like, hey, if you decide not to renew, just so you know that I am going to sell this slot. Yeah. So for sure, you want to have sold out time slots. That's a great problem to
Yeah,
have.
but not sell like say 6 or 8 or something, and
No,
then
you
have
sell
them
5. Sell 5.
try and
Yep.
book
Yep.
it. Okay.
Yep. If your business was bigger, I happen to know your business, Rosalie. If your business was bigger where you had lots of time slots, then you could potentially oversell it, right? Because you could say, well, I can fit you in here. If you had a second trainer, right? Like at Miracles Fitness, we would tell people, hey, you've got the 9 a.m. slot, but we also had 9 a.m. 5 days a week. We had 9:30, we had 8:30 if you needed to change, and we had multiple trainers. So if we got to the point where we're like 9 a.m. is sold out, we got 6 people and we got 3 people that want to come, we had the capacity to grow that. So it wasn't a huge problem. Whereas in your case, you just build a waiting list, right? And then you create what I call times nearby, right? So if 9 a.m. is sold out and that's the time everybody wants, and that's the biggest challenge we have is everybody wants to train at 9 a.m. or 9:30, right? It's like, well, I can't train everybody then. So, can you make 8:30 work for somebody? Can you make 9:30 work? Can you make 10 a.m. work? So you start selling out all those other times.
And
All right.
can I one more?
Sure.
What's the price range for 1 month of semi-private training?
Yeah, let's everybody post their price range in the chat. This will be interesting. So some of you might be, and this is for small group. So she said semi-private, let's say 4 to 6 clients, small group. What are you charging per month? Now you probably, if you're typing that in the chat, then you're gonna have to tell us. So Rosalie, do you do 30-minute, 45, or 60-minute sessions?
I'm shooting for 50.
50, okay. So I would call that 45-minute session. I mean, a 45-minute session is different than an hour session. Is the chat working for everybody? Paolo, great seeing you, buddy. He's probably already gone. So David's saying 200 to 320. David, is that yes, Pete's saying 275 to 325, depending on the contract length, 40-minute session. That's at 4 times a week. David, the 200 to 320, is that 2 times a week, 3 times a week? I can't hear you. Unmute, please.
Yeah, the 200 would be twice a week. The 300
323 times a week. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing, Rosalie, the low end on small group is 150 to 175 a month, and those are for 30-minute sessions twice a week. That's the low end. And I'm seeing people charge as much as $2.99 for 30-minute sessions twice a week. And I'm seeing people charge as high as $3.99 for 3 times a week, again, for 30-minute sessions. So if you're doing closer to an hour, you just have to start to break down how much do you want to make per hour. So I know some of you are online, so then it's different. The pricing's different. But just to give you an idea, Rosalie, I think based on your market, if you're doing an hour, you probably should be somewhere in the $2.99 for twice a week, probably $3.99 for 3 times a week.
Okay.
Courtney,
Thank
I'm
you.
curious. Courtney, you said something in the chat. You said, I don't do that. You don't do small group, or?
No, I only have one that I do that way. I have a client that I've worked with for about 5 years. She wanted to bring her sister because she needs to get out of the house. Or
So is everything exclusively one-on-one? I can't hear you. Your mic's not working for some reason. It did work, and then you disappeared. Yeah, it's still not. I can't hear you. Is anybody else hearing her? No. Okay. I don't know what happened. I heard you clearly there for a second. So yeah, and that's the other thing too. If you only do one-on-one, that's great. That's fine. David, I know you do a lot of high-end one-on-one. Courtney, 130 an hour. Yeah, you absolutely have got to be charging the right rate for one-on-ones. That's critical. I mean, I know a lot of trainers that are making $10,000-$12,000 a month, and all they do is one-on-one, and they're like, I don't want to do group stuff. That's fine. That's totally great. All right, who else has a question, challenge, concern, problem I can hopefully solve?
I do.
Okay.
Coming from New York, I noticed the price point in Florida. I just have a feeling that people, they want insurance to cover everything, and they don't want to spend, that kind of money. So my biggest issue, I have many issues. I've been here a year and now I'm ready to start marketing because nobody knows I'm here. They don't know what I do.
Sure.
I still have clients online who I've been working with for 20, 15, 8 years, nothing less than 8 years. And they're my priority. So I've got them on Zoom, but I want to go out and, now it's like, well, I don't want to go to people's homes. How much are spaces to rent? That's a whole different thing. How do I prioritize my current clientele
Yeah.
and work in a new clientele and help as many people as possible? And when you're only one person, it's hard to really, I can't honestly do 10 clients a day. I don't feel I can give somebody the quality I give them at 9 in the morning as, if I'd give them at 5 o'clock, I'll burn out.
Absolutely. Even if you were doing 10 half hours, that's a lot of people and a lot of human interaction and a lot of energy. If you were a high extrovert, maybe that would work because it gives you energy. For me, that would suck the energy out of me. I would have nothing left. But that's good that you know that, right? Hey, I can only work with so many people a day, right? So I would say in Florida, where you've moved to, you're going to have to get laser focused on that avatar. Because, and I hear this from people all the time, Therese, oh, well, I don't know if there are people here that can afford me. And I don't believe that. I believe there are. They might be harder to find, right? Because in New York, it might have felt like every step you took, you fell into someone that could afford your service, right? It was like there were just a lot more wealthy people in that market. But that's not to say there aren't any in Florida where you are, right? So you just have to get laser focused on finding where they are, because once you find one or two, guess what you find? Everyone they hang out with tends to be a similar socioeconomic status.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. My dad is 75. I use my parents and my in-laws as examples. My dad's 75 and he's a retired commodities investor and a millionaire. And most of the people he hangs out with, for the most part, are at a higher affluent level. Now, not all of them, but a lot of, because, I mean, if he's traveling to other states to compete in track meets, there's already a level of likely affluence there for people that are competing in these, let's be honest, novel activities, right? It's like you don't have to go to Kentucky to go do the senior state track meet, but these people enjoy doing it and it's great. I love that they're doing it. So some of the people he hangs out with already are, so you need to start to tap into what are some of the, you know, is it a country club? Is there a gated community? Is it a yacht club? Where you can tap into, oh, these are the people that can afford my services. And if you're doing virtual offerings, obviously now that network gets pretty broad, right? Because it doesn't have, you're not confined to Florida. You can be, you know,
Right.
you can tap into your old network in New York. You can ask your current clients, all of whom are virtual, to introduce you. Leverage the network you have, right? I always say we don't ask our clients enough to help us. They have people they're connected to, but let's be honest, they're not thinking about your business, Therese. They're not.
Yeah.
They're happy to train with you, and then they're done, right? And then they go on about their day. I mean, think about it. You guys, how many of you have a coffee shop you frequent regularly? Any of you? Any of you have a coffee shop? Pete? But after you get coffee there, do you spend the rest of your day thinking about how you can help that coffee shop's business? No, I mean, we don't do that, right? So what you need to do, Teresa, is figure out, find your 5 best virtual clients and figure out how you can tap into their network, right? How can they introduce you to a handful of people that might want to try your service or meet with you? Who do they know that, you know, has some sort of a joint issue that you could solve, right? You have to consistently in person ask them, remind them, but also via email say, hey, I've got 3 openings. I would love to help someone that you know, right? The reality is you'd rather help your clients' friends than have to meet a total stranger who might not be a great match. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
That thing
absolutely.
applies to everybody in the room here listening, right? We forget to ask our clients, remind our clients, nudge our clients to introduce us to people who they know are suffering, maybe suffering in silence, right? They had a hip replacement and it didn't go the way they thought it would, and now they're not moving as well as they thought they would. And it's like, why have you not told me about them? I can help them, right? Maybe their mom fell, and I mean, so we have to gently sort of remind our clients, hey, I would love to help your friends, your family members. If you have anybody you think that I can help, right? Introduce me. Here's the easiest way to do it, right? Just, you have to almost tell them, coach them how to do it. And I think you got to do this in person, almost every week, for sure every other week, and you have to do it via email, or text, however you communicate with them. Email, text, do those things regularly. All right, who else? David, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm in cruise mode. So, I mean, I know I could grow my business. I'm just not sure which way I want to go.
Okay.
There's a couple things I'm passionate about, like, you know, flexibility, range of motion, mobility, function are the things that I'm best at. Weight loss is, I know how to tell people how to lose weight, but you know, I never I don't really have a passion for that, you know.
Sure.
I help people.
Stretching flexibility has kind of always been your expertise, right?
Flexibility, really specific strength training. You know, I mean, I went through rotator cuff surgery last year, and so those are those are the kinds of things that I kind of focus on. Like, one of my mottos is, I can help you, you know, move better, feel better, and look better, and usually in that order. Because, you know, if you're talking about weight loss, right, it takes time to lose weight, especially when you're older, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
If I can make them feel better and move better, they usually stick around. Not all the time do they lose weight, because sometimes they're not willing to do what it takes, you know. But I like small group training. I like groups like 3 to 5, 3 to 6. But I work at a gym where there are like 5 to 6 other trainers, and you know, like, I'm 65, so all the other trainers are like these young dudes, right? So, I mean, I get respect because I know what I'm doing. And, you know, people ask me questions and things like that. And I try to help them out because I have a lot of knowledge. But it never becomes much of a problem because it's almost like they don't want to step on my toes. You know what I mean? And I'm not mean or anything. It's just like, I just like, okay, this is what we're doing and we're going to be here. I try to minimize my floor, however you want to describe it. But I'm very, very, very flexible in that. Oh, that machine's taken. Okay, let's go over here. You know what I mean? Which you have to, if you're working with other trainers and, you know, there's one gym, it's, you know, you got to be flexible. You're going to drive yourself nuts. Right.
So is there anything particular you're struggling with right now, or a specific thing
you know,
could help you with?
I think that I don't, yeah, I think one of the main things is I don't talk to my clients enough about how they can help me. That's a big thing. You know, I have some really good clients that are like, usually if I get a client, they stick around for a long time. And,
okay. So the two things I would encourage you to do, David, because and this, everybody listening, this probably applies, but for the next 2 weeks, have specific conversations with your clients about them, right? So what organizations are they a part of? What clubs or groups are they a part of? And figure out, I mean, like, almost be that sort of, you know, 7th or 8th grader, be like, hey, could you invite me to hang out with your friends? You know, like if somebody's like, oh yeah, like I go to this, you know, philanthropy club that meets every month. I'm like, oh, that sounds super cool. Do you think I could visit sometime? Start having those conversations every week, right? So you might pick 3 clients to do it with this week, pick a different 3 next week. Find out what charity boards they're on, what special civic groups they're in. You know, are they part of a Rotary, a Kiwanis, whatever, and figure out how you can get invited, right? Because what you want to do is get connected to their network, because they're not going home and going, oh, I'm going to get out my cell phone of contacts and introduce you to Karen and Rosalie and Courtney and Judy. They're not doing that, right? But if they're like, oh yeah, I can invite David to my next, you know, Rotary meeting, or, you know, philanthropy club or civic, whatever it happens to be, then you show up there. And of course, hopefully they're going to host you well and introduce you to their friend Bob and to Susan. And pretty soon you're going to walk out of there with 2 or 3, you know, business cards and some emails, and now you have that ball rolling. And if you do that consistently over the next several weeks, all of a sudden you could wind up in July or August being invited to multiple different meetings, and you're making new connections. Now it gets easier when Bob comes in to train. You'd be like, hey, that was really cool. Sally actually reached out to me and was interested. Can you help me? Right. So now you have referrals that you're working, right? Because now these people have actually introduced you to their friends. You've met them. It's a little bit easier to keep that rolling. So, but to me, that's just you being intentional. You're not doing anything creepy. You know, you're just trying to get connected into some of the things they're interested in, some of their networks, because you want to help more people. At the end of the day, you want to help their friends, their peers, their colleagues, and the only way you can do that is to get introduced to them. You know, so you have to start fostering some of those relationships. That's just kind of social networking.
And they usually talk about things like that, but it's not so much that I make the
right. And when you hear them talk about it, that's when you got to be laser focused to be like, oh, I would love to attend that meeting with you next time. How do I get an invite? Right. You know, or when you hear them say, you know, when you hear somebody say, we need a speaker for our Rotary Club in August, boom, you are on that, right? You're like, I would love to do that, right? Now, that's months down the road, but August shows up and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I get to go speak to 40 people about what I'm passionate about. So be consistently doing that, because when I tell people, if you're relying on word of mouth, you're doing it the wrong way, right? You have got to foster and build word of mouth. People are happy to refer you. You know, if they've been training with you for multiple years, David, they're happy to refer you, but they don't know how. They don't know how to do it. They're not going to go out of their way to be like, hey, Jim, I think you look like you need to be stretched by David. Like they're not going to do it. It's sort of awkward, right? But if you show up at their networking event, then they'll be like, hey, Jim, you got to come try this stretching session with David. It's life changing. I've been seeing him for 2 years. Well, that's what you're looking for, right? That's an easy, but I always tell people, you got to build word of mouth. You got to foster it. You got to create it, generate the opportunities, because people they just don't do it near to the level we need them to, right? I mean, they just don't, right? I don't even care if you've lost 50 pounds and you're the best before and after picture. You're still not walking around telling people, because that's awkward, right? It's like, well, you look like you need to lose 50 pounds, so why don't you come work with my trainer, right? Like, nobody does that. So people are like, man, they had great results, but they're not sending me referrals. It's like, well, that's not an easy thing to do. So you have to create and foster that. So, all right, let's do one or two more. And then I do want to honor everybody's time. And obviously, if you got to go, feel free. I will post this recording in the Facebook group. Anybody else have a press? Mandy?
So I took the leap January 1st from part-time playing with my real job to this. I gave myself 4 months, January 1st, to replace my salary from last year. By March 1st, I was on the trajectory to replace my salary from last year. I've already hit my second goal, and I'm now a trajectory to double my salary from last year.
Nice.
And I'm 4.5 months in. I know, I'm super stoked. So 98% is the wisdom that you have given me. So I really appreciate it. My tidbits to everybody who's trying, I spent hours and hours and hours going through the Mastermind page. There's a files, and I read, and I did not reinvent any wheels. I adapted, and I moved forward from that. I am not a tech person, so that saved me 50 hours, right? Okay, so that was the first thing. I am now renting a space in this gym that has part of Mountain Island Fitness. It's a huge gym. I'm now going to start renting a space. So I'm super excited. So I'm excited to hear about equipment that I should put in my spot. It'll be 15 by 20 or so. So private enough that I can do good stretching. To me, stretching is very important. David, I hear you. I love it. My background is occupational therapy and skilled nursing facilities. And so I want to keep people out of those facilities. Okay. So I'm going to do a mat table. That's my big one to start. So any information on any equipment that you recommend, and I have, this isn't, medicine balls and bands, yada, yada. That taxes, how do I prepare best for taxes? I like insight on that.
Sure.
And then I just went from, so Rosalie, I heard you. So here at the gym, they do sessions. And so I had to honor that. 2 months ago, I started doing my own programming. So they would buy 1 month at a time. This past month, they have to do that. They have to buy 1 month at a time. That auto renews. So I don't honor their vacations. I will give them online work. And my new people who automatically signed up for my 1 month and actually I do it 4 weeks at a time. That way I can take 4 weeks of vacation and not have to give back anybody anytime. So people who sign up for 4 weeks at a time and they pay in full, it auto renews. I will send them the vacation workouts. I've had 0 issues with anybody who is new and signed up. Any of my old people who were on the sessions, I've had some pushback from them on it.
Sure.
And today I've had the realization it's okay if they go on. My schedule is completely full. And so maybe this is just a good time for me to switch from my original clients who have helped build me. And I respect that. And I'm really, really honored that they stuck with me for over a year. But I think it's okay to change. So Rosalie, I heard you and I kept on wanting to say this to you, that it feels really good that I can look at my month and say, okay, I'm going to make 6,000 this month. Whereas before I was like, oh, if so-and-so cancels, I'm going to be out, I missed, $400 last month because of people canceling. and I don't have to look at it that way anymore. I have a for sure income coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah. So what's
So
your
I know
biggest,
that was a lot. I'm just
yeah,
trying to.
what's your biggest question or challenge? Is it right now the equipment thing?
Equipment and any insight on taxes, like how much
Yeah.
should I set to the side?
Okay. So the equipment thing, I kind of already commented on the Facebook group. I want you to wait till the summit.
Mhm.
Because I really want you to experience stuff, try stuff out, and talk to other trainers about what they say is the absolute. And it's kind of what I said to Pete too. Like, I'd like to see your cash flow coming in a little bit more, because you can make a decision right now to be like, oh, well, I want to buy this $500 thing, but you come to the summit and you'll be like, I really want to spend $2,000 on a smart fit setup. Well, save the money. Let's start growing your cash flow, and let's get to the point where then you can make those decisions. So I don't think right now you need to rush into buying anything. Taking wait through the summit. That's June 16th and 17th. So, and then at that point, hopefully you'll have a little more cash on hand. And that is a tax question, right? So if you don't have a business CPA, you need to get one. So a lot of times people make this transition. They go from an independent trainer who you really don't need a business CPA. You might need a CPA to help you with your personal taxes. But now if you're a business, you really do need to have a business CPA that is helping you maximize every tax advantage, from self-employment tax to how do you pay yourself, to when you buy a piece of equipment, do you depreciate the whole thing at once? Well, dumbbells, medicine balls, those kinds of things, they're typically 100% expensed. A piece of Kaiser equipment or Smart Fit, if it's like Smart Fit, you can spend $10,000 on Smart Fit equipment if you want. That can be something that's depreciated over multiple years, doesn't have to be taken all at once. So, but those tend to be a CPA type question.
Okay.
If you don't have one, and if you and your husband don't happen to know any business CPAs, I mean, that's a great question to ask some of your clients. I mean, you might even have some clients who are retired accountants. Hey, who would you trust with my business taxes? You're going to spend somewhere between $700 and $1,000 probably for a business tax return every year, but it should be money that's well spent, because it's helping you in terms of business expenses, tax expenses, those sorts of things as you grow. So,
Thank you.
Pete's saying, Andy, I can't recommend the book Profit First. Yeah, Profit First for sure.
Thank you.
Profit First for micro gyms, for taxes, financial planning, those sorts of things. So there are a lot of, and you need to get up to speed on these fairly quickly, Mandy, because you don't want to wait till November and all of a sudden go, oh, I should have done this in the third quarter. And it's hard all of a sudden into December then to be like, oh, I need to do this, this, and this. And you're like, but I don't even have the money to do it, So having a business accountant that's reviewing your stuff and knows in October that you need to do this, really helps. Things like, what are you going to do with an IRA account, or what are you going to do with your retirement, and some of those sort of things can get pretty creative, because it's like, wait, if I stick $6,000 in my retirement account, I'm going to save this amount in taxes, so and I can't even answer all those questions because they're even different state by state, but and since I don't know all
That's
the
a great,
particulars of your business.
that was very helpful though.
Sure.
Just the idea to go from my personal CPA to a business one. So
Well,
thank you.
unless your personal CPA happens to be a business one, which if they are, but if they're not, a lot of times they're not as well versed to really help you with
He
this.
says he is, and he says he's going to send me all these things, but I haven't gotten anything. So hence me asking people who
Yeah.
are doing this every day. But that's a
Right.
great idea. Just find another business CPA.
Yeah.
Because between us, I have more income than I've ever seen. Ever.
That's great. That's great.
In
Good
the past
problems.
2 months.
Good problems.
Like it is blessings and blessings and blessings, but
I'll post that in the Facebook group for Tuesday's meeting. If you have the problem Mandy does, I have more income than I've ever seen.
I mean, mind blowing.
Well,
So next time we'll talk about how to hire employees.
Honestly, here's the thing, Mandy. I said earlier, a big hairy goal, right?
Yes.
And the reality is, if you keep on the trajectory on, you're going to be doing double the revenue you're doing right now, because you're just getting started, right? You are just getting started.
It scares me to death. Like overwhelmingly blessed scares me to death.
Yeah, it doesn't need to scare you. Get excited about it. Now you need to manage it well. It's a good
Yes.
opportunity. At some point you may need to hire someone, but you have a lot of opportunity and that's great. So again, a lot of opportunity just means there are a lot of people that need your help, right?
Yes.
You know, so at the end of the day, this comes down to us helping people, solving people's needs, and you're getting, you know, paid for that, and you should. And so that's a great thing, right? It's a win-win for everybody. So
And it's scary. I'm already full capacity. So that's a whole other conversation, but like,
yeah.
how do I get more comfortable with small groups and how do I do all those things?
Yeah,
So,
we're gonna have to talk about next level stuff, right? You're running into next level problems. How do I leverage my time? How do I raise my prices? How do I hire? All things that will take you to the next level. So,
okay,
all right.
thank you.
Anybody else? I know we've hit the 90-minute mark, and I said we would stick to 90 minutes, but does anybody else have something they were just like, I've got to ask? Karen?
Yes, quickly, I got a lot of great information from what you said to everybody. It spills over into my needs. I guess my biggest challenge is that I spend part of the year in Phoenix, and I'm back in Wisconsin now. And I moved from the place I was at for 25 years, and now I'm in the Milwaukee area. So I know that I need to start getting myself marketing beyond my current clients. I'm wanting to start a 6-week challenge, and I wanted to have a minimum of 3 people. I do for sure have 2, but from a financial standpoint, do I wait to get at least another couple, or do I do it? And I'm not quite sure how to price it. I guess I am uncomfortable raising my rate, and I know at the mastermind, I remember you made a price of 8 sessions for 160, I think or 180, 8 for
Yeah.
180.
Yeah.
And put that out there, and I think it was intimidating, especially to my current clients. And so it's not looking real hopeful that I'm going to have a small group right now based on my my previous clients, because that's not the price point I had.
Yeah. So Karen, I guess I would say one, I'd love to connect with you one-on-one on that kind of follow-up from Mastermind.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, Courtney. See ya. Because I think we kind of mapped that out in Phoenix, and I think to me, for you, it's just literally implementing and taking action. And if you're implementing hard and you're taking action, and what you're finding is, you know, price point resistance, then I would like to talk about that one-on-one, because I think there could be a couple things going on there. One is you've had clients in the past who were used to paying $99 or, you know, whatever it was. They were used to paying a low price point, and now you're throwing out, well, I got to charge 180, and they're like, well, I can't do that. Well, yeah, I mean, if I go to the, you know, the average person that goes to McDonald's for $1 coffee, and now I want to take them to a high-end coffee shop and it's $4, they're gonna be like, I'm not doing that, right? I mean, there's a disconnect. $1, $4 obviously doesn't sound like a huge difference, but I mean, there are people that I would never pay $4 for a cup of coffee. And then there are other people who would be like, I would never buy a cup of coffee at McDonald's for $1, you know, I mean, so, right, there's a complete disconnect. So it's possible that you need to get a whole new set of clientele, because we don't want to have to spend our time with people that just cannot afford to spend more than $100 a month. If that's the case, then what you would have to offer them is a large group experience, right? It'd have to be 12 or 13 clients or something like that, right? So, and sometimes we just have to be willing to say, you know what, I can't be the solution for everyone out there, right? As much as, I mean, look, I've had people over the years say, well, you guys would be a lot bigger company if you just gave everything away. Like, well, I don't know if we would exist very long if we gave everything away, right? I mean, it's like, so as much as I would like to, you know, train every senior over the age of 65 that's on a fixed income and can't afford it, it just doesn't make a lot of sense either, right? It's not practical. So you don't have to necessarily worry about, look, in Phoenix, Karen, there are tens of thousands of people that can afford 180 a month. right? And
Right.
if we can't make it work in Wisconsin, then maybe you only do it in Phoenix, and that escalates the conversation of how much more time do you need to be spending in Phoenix every year, right? I do believe there are people in Wisconsin that can't afford your services, but I know the town you're in wasn't very big.
No,
You
yeah.
know,
I
so
know.
I know where you're located. But I also think that you know, we might have to be honest about the fact that there are some people that can't afford your service. They just
Mhm.
can't. And that's okay. You know, the reality is if everyone could afford your service, your price would have to be really low, right?
Mhm.
So I think, Karen, you need to get laser focused on implementing what we taught you in Phoenix, because we gave you a lot of great advice. I know you could be doing 50,000 a year. I know your business in and out. I know Mandy's in and out, and I know you guys aren't that different. You know, like the two of you should connect, you know, through the Facebook group. You know, you're really not in that different a place, Karen. You know, so if Mandy's sitting in a situation where she's like, I'm sold out and I got more money coming in than I ever thought possible, that could be your situation, Karen. It really could. I do believe that for you.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would
Now
like
it
that.
might have to be primarily Phoenix focused, but that's okay, you know. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here. This has been awesome. I do want to, I mean, I do have to say, hey, I got one thing just to show you guys real quick, because this is what I enjoy doing, and I've enjoyed this so much. I think I'm gonna start doing this more regularly. But the one thing that I find helps is, you know, when we meet, and Mandy, you came to the one in Nashville. Karen, you were just at the one in Phoenix. So our next one is August 3rd and 4th in Reston, Virginia. Now it's $599, but what I'm doing as a special bonus is I'm giving you guys 2 months of coaching. And it doesn't say that on this page, but for anybody on this call today or listening to the recording, so basically what you're going to get is you're going to get either June or July coaching, or you're going to get July or August, and you can choose what fits your calendar and my calendar better. My calendar in June is a little tricky because of the summit, and I have a vacation, and my son's getting married. But I do have 2 weeks that are open. So these live events, I mean, Mandy came to Nashville, and I mean, something must have happened there that is working, because things are going well. Karen came to Phoenix. Paolo has already left, and I think there was somebody else in the room at one point that was at one of the last two. Paolo was in Nashville. So it's a 2-day live meeting where we do kind of what we did today, but for 2 full days, and you get to hang out with other business owners. So this is 10 minutes from Dulles Airport outside of DC. Just want you guys to be aware of this. We've got 14 seats open for this one at this point. It's going to be a great 2 days. Again, you get 2 days. The bonus here is you get 2 days or 2 months of coaching with me. So we'll hop on one-on-one coaching calls and do that sort of thing. So I'll send you guys already have this link from the emails for this week. So if you have specific questions about this, you can email me. But this is kind of our next live in-person 2-day coaching. So yeah, just wanted to kind of remind you guys of that. You guys are invited. Love doing those where people get to connect, and the beauty of that is you guys get to connect with one another too and bounce ideas off each other, and there's a power in that. So this has been great. I'm doing another one Tuesday night. If you guys registered for that one, great. Feel free to join in. I will probably do one more free one in June. And then beyond that, I'd love for you guys to consider ongoing coaching with us. Pete, what's the best email to send you to get a link to the Facebook group you mentioned? So just reply to the email for this and I'll get it. And then I'll send you that Facebook link, because the Facebook link's kind of goofy. I don't know what it is. And if I post it in the chat, it will probably be a mess. So and same for all of you, just reply to the email that you registered for this that comes into my inbox. If you have a specific question, or if you're like, I think I want to attend the DC event, or I want to get in this Facebook group you're talking about. you know, so again, we've got a paid Facebook group and we've got a free Facebook group. Both have resources. Obviously the paid one has a lot more. Like Mandy said, there's like 5 years worth of files and resources in there. A huge suite of resources. But yeah, feel free to just reply to the emails that you got for today's meeting. And then next week, I've got the Tuesday night, same format. I'll go over the same content. And then Wednesday, I've got Trevor from Coach Catalyst coming on. If you're looking for ways to add more accountability, more support, more ongoing reach, that's really great. And then on Thursday, I'm looking to actually bring in someone to help with online reviews, Google reviews, Facebook reviews. How do I crank that up? Which that might be really good for you, Pete, and you, Mandy, with where you guys are at. David, that might even be good for you. You know, if you're looking to go from, you know, 10 or 12 Google reviews to 50 or 100, this company can do it. So I think we'll have them on Thursday. So thanks, everybody. I hope you have an awesome Memorial Day weekend. And if I don't see you Tuesday, hopefully I'll see you someday next week. We got a lot of things next week besides the mastermind. We've got Evan Osar on Tuesday night. We've got Wednesday with Trevor. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.